web developers, backend engineers, welcome back. In this video we'll be looking at browsers and how they work. I know we have seen a couple of browsers we've been using: Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, Safari, Opera Mini browser, and Brave browser. So in this video, just looking at how they work. But before we get into the video, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you can get notified on the next videos I'm gonna bring. And without further ado, let me just get into it. So a web browser is a software application that allows users to access and interact with information on the World Wide Web. So web browsers are used to view web pages, which are made up of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript code. Web browsers interpret this code and display it to the user in a way that is easy to understand and comprehend. So majority of the time, not everyone that accesses the web browser is a web developer or a software engineer or a backend engineer. So using a browser enables everyone, or you don't even have to know how it works, but it enables somebody to be able to put a request. Let's say on the URL, you want to go to a website like Facebook, you just write www.facebook.com, able to access your account, sign in, send messages, post pictures. So the web browser enables this. And how web browsers work is a user enters a URL. So the user entering the URL uniform resource locator into the address bar of the web browser, like Facebook, X, or YouTube. The URL is the address of a web page on the internet. So when you enter, let's say www.youtube.com, so you're requesting for the YouTube resource on the internet, which you're going to use the web browser to use, so to access it. So you enter the URL. There's a domain DNS lookup, domain name service lookup. So web browser sends a domain name system lookup request to a DNS server. The DNS server translates the URL into an IP address. An IP address is a unique number that identifies each computer on the internet. So you understand www.youtube.com, but that's the domain name system. So there's an IP address behind that domain name that you've been given. So it's easy to remember the domain name other than the IP address. So the DNS lookup enables the IP address mapped upon the domain name for you to be able to access it. So there's a TCP connection. The web browser establishes a TCP connection, transmission control protocol, connection with the server that hosts the web page. TCP is a protocol that ensures that data is transmitted reliably in that order. So of course, when you're requesting a resource, you're getting the IP address is mapped onto the domain name, and when you access, let's say for example, youtube.com, it's hosted somewhere in the browser, in the internet. So you're using the TCP connect. So the TCP connection allows you to be able to establish, so it enables the web page to be the connection to be established with the server. Then HTTP request. The web browser sends a HTTP hypertext transfer protocol request to the server. The HTTP request specifies the web page that the user wants to access. Then the response, HTTP response, the server sends the HTTP response back to the server, back to the web browser. The HTTP response contains the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript code for the web page. Then rendering, the web browser interprets the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript code and displays on the web page for the user. So when you just type www.youtube.com, all this happens in seconds. When you just see that, when you enter youtube.com, you see that thing loading there on the top, then it brings back. So that's the whole process on how the web browser works. All those things happen in the back end and behind the scenes, of course, with the help of the internet. So for the resource that you have requested, if you're requested for YouTube to be able to check on YouTube videos, This is the procedure. Even for anything that is hosted on the web or hosted on a server, you use the web browser to access it. So the components of a web browser. A web browser is made up of several different components, each of which plays a vital role in the browsing experience. So these components include user interface. The UI is the user interface is the part of the web browser that the user interacts with. It includes the address bar, the tabs, the scroll bar, and the buttons. All this is just visual. Somebody who's using the a browser like Chrome, you're able to see like this the place where you type in the address. You can be able to you have the tabs. You can change the tabs there when you have to open multiple tabs when you're searching. Got the scroll bar and the buttons. Then we've got the rendering engine. The rendering engine is responsible for interpreting HTML, CSS, and JavaScript code and displaying the web page to the user. So these things happen behind the scenes. So the rendering engine, somebody who doesn't know how to code doesn't know where the rendering engine is. It's okay because it has been abstracted by using the web browser. They've got the network stack. The network stack is responsible for sending and receiving HTML request and response. It just happens at the back end. Then we've got the security features. Web browsers include a number of security features to protect user from malware and phishing attacks. And also we've got extensions, which majority of the time I feel like people engage with a lot, especially to make the UI look much more appealing. The web browser allows users to install extensions, which are small programs that add additional functionality to the browser. So yeah, I mean, those are the 5 components that make up a web browser. And web browsers are an essential tool for accessing the World Wide Web. They are constantly being updated and improved, and given like the type of features that are there, it dictates like the functionality is going to be put in there. And they're a vital part, especially when you want to access resources on the internet. So without a web browser, it's kind of very difficult to be able to access it outside of using the terminal, which much of the time you'll see software engineers and developers, when they are going into the servers, they use the terminal to interact with. But for somebody who wants to access the internet, web browser is the best thing that they can use. And with this, you're able to access resources that you require, because the web applications that have been designed, like YouTube, Facebook, X, TikTok, they have taken this model and they are ubiquitous in the way that you can be able to access them through the browser, and they have been optimized for the browser. So yeah, so this is just a rundown on how web browser works, and in the next video I'll be looking at DNS and how it works. So if you guys like the video, make sure to leave your feedback down in the comments on what you think. Maybe it's something I've left out, maybe just make sure to mention it. And I'm out. Happy coding.